And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Joe, it is so good to be back. We've missed 3 episodes because of Christmas. So good to be here with you, my man.
Yeah, it feels really weird. The timing of Christmas being on a Monday and also New Year's being on a Monday kind of screws up the calendar a little bit, which I was thinking about this. This is really random. I was thinking about this. I think the best day for Christmas to land on is a Thursday, because then we don't really miss anything on Thursday because most people are checked out.
Yeah, because Christmas Eve is on Wednesday, so you get off on Wednesday, you get off on Thursday, and then you get off on Friday, and then you'd have the whole weekend.
Monday's easily the worst day. It's easily the worst day, and there was some good NFL football, but you know the bowl games are kicking up right now. It's good time, and I'm just juiced up for this upcoming Monday, though. I'm very, very juiced up for the playoff. It feels like you and I have been talking about it for like 3 months. It feels like we're not even in the season still for how long it's been. So I need to see how these damn games play out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, currently right now, as we are live, the Pop-Tart Bowl between Kansas State and NC State on. Been some good games. We'll talk about one of them that happened last night, Joe. Holy Miller Moss. Oh, dude. And let me ask the question. Let me get it out of the way. Is Caleb Williams a system quarterback?
No, he's not a system quarterback.
I don't know.
That is an overreaction. But, and we're going to talk about this, I don't know why the hell you need Will Howard. Miller Moss hasn't really played, and we haven't gotten to really see him play. If that's what he's capable of doing against one of the better ACC teams, and I get it, it's an exhibition game. That's what these bowl games have turned into. That's pretty damn good. I would start that kid. I don't want Will Howard. Will Howard's not going to make your team better than what Miller Moss just did.
Yeah, I mean, look, Joe, it'd be one thing if he went out there and threw for 350 and 3 touchdowns. The kid threw for 6 touchdowns, right? Like, I mean, it's not as if like he was just – and look, a team that played in the ACC championship game, like didn't have many opt-outs. I mean, USC had more opt-outs on defense than Louisville had on their entire team. So –
well, that was I jokingly said this to you earlier. There was probably a good thing that they had all those guys defensively not playing, and they were able to just throw out some young guys, got rid of all the crappy players.
But I'm going to tell you, and I know you're going to disagree, and we're going to talk about this. The biggest loser last night was Florida State.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't. I'm going to save it for when we talk about it, but if this was a preseason football game, which is what that was a preseason game for the 2024 season, basically. If this was a preseason NFL game, would we be saying something similar? Would we be overreacting to an outcome?
Well, the last time we overreacted to a preseason games was Dak Prescott, and look at him right now. So, I mean, there comes a point where, say, you thought I wouldn't know the NFL. Ha, backfired on you.
That wasn't my reasoning. I don't really agree with that, but
I mean, that's when Dak Prescott went crazy, because remember, Tony Romo went down.
Wait, but do you also remember when Jamar Chase had we could come up with examples on both sides.
He dropped a pass, okay?
And everyone said that his hands were going to be bad, and he had one of the greatest rookie seasons ever.
Yeah, I never bought into that. The bottom line, though, is, Joe, they didn't throw for a touchdown. Like, you got Miller Moss, a third-string quarterback, let's call him what he was, okay, a third-string dude out there slicing and dicing like he was a Ninja Turtle. Okay, dude, he was slicing and dicing like Leonardo, the Ninja Turtle, okay? The pizza, slicing and dicing. And look, that throw he made, the deep throw that he made to number 19, the deep throw, and he took a shot in the pocket. Beautiful throw.
There is, in my opinion, a pretty big gap between the talent of Brock Glenn, who is a freshman and a 4-star, but not like a really highly touted 4-star, and Miller Moss, who comes from the area and has been there for a decent amount of time. I believe he's a sophomore or a redshirt sophomore? He's been there a lot longer. He's been in the system. Brock Glenn was thrown in on short notice to go play with no experience playing at all.
Interesting you say this, my friend. Can I tell you something?
What?
What's your excuse for Tate Rodemaker in Florida?
Okay. Wait. Would you not agree that rivalry weekend, we can't like pull 100% of the takeaway from those outcomes, because right now we'd be saying that Alabama is going to lose because they can't stop the run.
Miller Moss Heisman finalist 2024. Mark it down.
Start the campaign.
All right, it's not all we're going to discuss here tonight, too. Joe, we're going to give our 2 playoff games, why each one of the teams would win, meaning why we would think Alabama will win, what Michigan would have to do to win, and we're going to go in alphabetical order, which, ironically enough, matches our games, if you believe it or not.
Yeah.
We'll go Texas, and then we'll go Washington. What each 4 of those teams have to do to win their playoff game. Also, 2 things of note here. Number 1, we will be live immediately following the Texas and Washington game on New Year's Day. So mark your calendars, be there. We will be live on that day. Number 2, Joe, a year ago today, a young boy became a man. Do you want to know the story behind this?
Oh, yes. I would love to hear the story.
Interesting. So I had a guy from New Jersey call me, and he's like, hey, Blake, do you want to start a podcast? And I was like, man, not really, but I'll give you a chance. And nevertheless, here we are, 1 year today, Ruffino and Joe show.
If I remember correctly, I think it might have been the other way around. I think there was a little bit of coercing you had to do to convince me to do it. No, I mean,
I do not recall that. I
could pull some text where you were trying to convince me. No, but in all seriousness,
I'm gonna go delete all of those texts. You can unsend text messages now.
Not after that long. But yes, we joined forces. We were doing the Saturday show, and I think you and I both realized that there was even more potential than just doing that Saturday show. That the first couple of weeks were weird. It was a really weird kind of feeling out period. And then we realized that we argued with each other on a completely new level that I don't think college football space was used to. And it birthed what, in my opinion, has created the best debate show for college football in the market. And the growth shows it. And we've got this pardon the interruption style show that we do every single week. And this has been an amazing year. I am so excited for what the offseason is going to bring us, because I think there's going to be even more growth that's going to set up for a huge 2024.
I know this is just a bottle of water, but cheers, my friend. I will smoke a glass of whiskey here tonight, which my beautiful wife, Megan, got me a whiskey smoker. How about that?
Pretty slick. I need myself one of those.
She's such a great gift giver. And by the way, Avery Johnson for Kansas State just scored. I've told you about that kid. Nobody will listen to me. The kid, dude, they might win the Big 12.
Yeah.
Dude, yes. And look, he's going to run for 20 touchdowns. He's a long-haired, Jesus-looking Tebow.
I agree with that. I actually completely agree with that.
Jesus-looking Tebow.
Back for my very, very brief stint of being a recruiting writer, I did get to speak to him, and I've told you this before. I wrote an article on him. Does kind of give those Tebow vibes where he's just, I'm here for football. I'm here to play football.
I know.
Great athlete.
And he just ran, I think, a 20-yard run into the end zone. So, look, Joe, we got a lot to discuss. We'll talk about the playoffs first, Miller Moss, and then, one other note. Walter Nolen going to Ole Miss. So, how did we miss
Shocking.
that? Yeah. Oh, dude, they're tampering their asses off. They're spending money left and right. So, we'll talk about that. Ole Miss, I mean, come on. I mean, look, I love that you got a good team for you. That's great for you. Good for you. But you're tampering your asses off. You're spending a crap load of money. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag first. But do us a favor. Everybody do us this solid. Hit the like and share if you're on Facebook. Share to all those groups. Share to all of those social media. Share to all those social media pages. Joe, we did have over 5,000 views on our last live show. So appreciate all of you doing that for us. Continue to do it. Week in, week out, episode per episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Let's talk about our good friends at BetOnline. Don't go anywhere. What each team in the playoff has to do to win. We talk about that next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. We're back. Indeed, we are back here, Joe. During the break, I just got to see my nephew almost dunk and shatter a basketball goal out in the state of Georgia. So if I'm not here in 5 years, it's because my nephew made the NBA and was drafted. So
Do you have athletes in your family? I find that hard to believe.
Joe, you were a long snapper. Calm down.
I set myself up for that.
You did set and it was so funny. We were talking about punters and the athleticism of punters in pre-show as well. Joe, let's talk about this. So we're going to go through each four of our teams in alphabetical order on what each one of them has to do to win their playoff game. Obviously, Alabama versus Michigan, the Rose Bowl, Texas versus Washington in the Sugar. Let's start in alphabetical order. As we said, Alabama. What are your keys to victory for Alabama in the Rose Bowl?
I think the big piece here for Alabama is not overthinking the approach for the game. I think that what has helped them win in this final stretch is that they've stuck to the game plan. They have stayed consistent on the offensive and defensive side of the football. Running Jalen Milroe more, designed quarterback runs, the read option game that they've had going, and then the ability to open up the passing game by attacking teams over the top. When they've tried to get too cute at times this year, it has led to Jalen Milroe making mistakes. And they can't go down that path because we've seen how backbreaking at times that can be for Alabama. They cannot be in a position where their defense has to bail them out. They're a really good defense, but this Michigan team is strong enough and proficient enough and athletic enough that if they're constantly bailing them out after a couple of mistakes, they are going to get burnt out by the end of that football game. So the big thing for me is play your style of football. Do not overthink it. And we know that Nick Saban and Alabama are notorious for doing that. They're not going to stoop to their opponent's level. We just have to hope that Tommy Rees doesn't get caught in the spotlight.
It's interesting that you ended it with Tommy Rees getting caught in the spotlight because, you know, I do think that this – look, he's been – if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me. He was on that Brian Kelly staff in 20 when they made the playoff, was he not?
I believe he was the offensive coordinator. Let me double check.
Okay, but regardless, I mean, this is, you know, he's – I guess my argument would be there, Joe, is that he's been around it. Like, he was on the staff when it happened, regardless, even if he was not calling plays. He was with Notre Dame. I actually, believe it or not, you talked about, you know, we argue all the time. I think we actually 1,000% agree with this one. I just think you just got to be yourself if you're Alabama. Do exactly what it is that you do. Tough, hard-nosed, win at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. Like you mentioned, get Jalen Milroe out on the edge and let him run a little bit. But I got to tell you something that I will continue to say about Michigan. Joe, when we talked about this Michigan versus Maryland a couple of weeks ago, I said, I told you it was about key to victory for Maryland. I was like, Joe, they're going to win one-on-one battles on the outside. I don't know if Michigan has the corners on the boundary that can win consistently. Well, then Maryland goes out there and they do some really good things against Michigan. The following week after that, I say that, look, I mean, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., the Biletnikoff Award winner, that's on the outside. He is going to just absolutely wreck shop with an underperforming Kyle McCord. He's going to win a lot of these battles, and so are a lot of these other receivers. You just got to be yourself. Now, I do think that Alabama's going to play their game. Joe, I think that they feel more loose to me. Like I'm watching all of this, this pre-game stuff, like them at, what was it, Walt Disney? I don't remember what the
Disney
one
World.
Disney World, whatever the one in California is. Disneyland's the one in Florida, I think. I don't remember. They seem looser. They seem more ready to go. Like this is just another business trip for the University of Alabama. I think Jalen Milroe in this offense, now that they've had a month to prepare, I think Michigan could be in trouble because I think that they're going to throw some things at Michigan they're not prepared for. And Joe, I just think they're better on both lines of scrimmage. I think this O-line has gotten much better from the first time or from when they played Texas to now. We saw them push around a really big time and really good team in Georgia. I think they're more battle tested. And I think I think that experience of this year being more battle tested up front is going to pave the way in the fourth quarter, maybe midway through the third quarter, and why Alabama wins this game.
I actually disagree that I think Alabama's offensive line has improved tremendously. So I actually will agree with you that their offensive line is better than Michigan's offensive line. And the way that J.C. Latham has taken a huge step forward after a little bit of a shaky start to the season.
Even
Proctor, yeah.
Proctor's taken a massive step, the freshman from Iowa.
But my pushback, though, I think that this Michigan defensive line and this front seven has won them football games. I think that in any instance where they've been sloppy on the offensive end of the football, that is what has won them games, because not only have they taken away the run game against Ohio State and against Penn State, those are the two games that we can only really pull from because they didn't play anyone else that was truly that competitive, but they still kicked the living shit out of all of those low-level Big Ten teams that they played against. They dominated the line of scrimmage and stopped the run, and they got after Kyle McCord and Drew Allar that led to some of those mistakes that opened up the game that set them up to win. So I know I'm not setting us up here to talk about Michigan just yet, but I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that Alabama's front seven is so much better than Michigan's.
See, let me counteract that on why you said you disagreed. Joe, Kyle McCord and Drew Allar are not Jalen Milroe. And they have not seen a better quarterback than Jalen Milroe this year. They haven't
seen a more athletic quarterback than Jalen Milroe this year.
Joe, even overall, they have not seen a better quarterback, throwing or running. Jalen Milroe has better statistics than J.J. McCarthy does. He's had better moments than Kyle McCord. Like, Joe, this isn't debatable. Like, did you see the kid against Georgia? Because I sure as hell did. And you know what else I saw? I saw that. Joe, are you going to sit here and try to convince me that Georgia's defensive line's not better than Michigan's? You're going to say that
I actually think that the Michigan's defensive line, it's got a two deep rotation. It is a two deep rotation. Their linebackers are also better than Georgia's in the current state that they face.
I will give you the backers. Okay, I'm not going to disagree with you there. Joe, they're looking good against Rudy Poo Tech and Rudy Poo State.
Okay, of course that their performance looks a little bit inflated against some pretty bad Big Ten teams.
What happened?
Kicking the shit out of people is kicking the shit out of people.
No,
they didn't show any signs of weakness.
BS. Because I also saw Ohio State at times push them around a little bit. Joe, you're acting like they didn't score 24 points. You're acting as if they
for a team that has two first round wide receivers, that's pretty good to hold them to 24 points.
Sure. I'm okay, cute. You really think in what you saw them do to Georgia that they're just going to pussyfoot around?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I look.
And how was and we talked about this. Jalen Milroe down the stretch against the best you have made the assumption along with myself. What's been the best secondary this year in your eyes? It's been Georgia. What did Jalen Milroe do to him?
He played a good game, but I'm not going to sit here and say that he made some ridiculous.
What did he do down the stretch?
Jalen Milroe's legs were what helped them win that football game because they didn't have anyone who could play contain.
He went Remember Isaiah Bond going stupid and cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? Who's throwing in the football?
He made good throws, and he had a really good game, but arguably that's not even statistically his best passing game. That was his best rushing game, and that feeds into what we're talking about here. Why, if Alabama wins, it's going to be because of him continuing to impact the game as a passer. That is what's going to win them the football game.
Oh, Rudy.
As a runner. Sorry, as a runner. What is going to win them the football game is if he goes off as a runner the way that he did against Georgia.
They ain't seen the green grass athletes like this, dog. I'm sorry. They haven't. I've seen Alabama all year long, everybody and their mama saying that they cannot go up against this team. They couldn't beat Georgia. Tennessee's front seven, who, by the way, was really good. Okay? Oh, well, Tennessee's going to get after them. Joe, are you about to argue me right now with what you know, and I know that you do draft stuff? Did you tell me I'm wrong? Texas A&M's defensive line has 3 first-round picks on it. We're going to talk about one of them who transferred to Ole Miss.
Yes.
Okay, they pushed them around in the fourth quarter. The third and fourth quarter, Alabama imposed their will. They are not, from a prospect standpoint, better, and you're going to have to admit this, they're not better than A&M.
You're saying Michigan's not better than A&M?
No. Joe, again, you have 3, potentially 4 first-round picks that started along that offensive line and they are defensive line. Then I saw you today or yesterday, y'all started talking about Edgerrin Cooper, Covington, Louisiana, stand up, about him being one of the best linebackers in this class. Joe, they have faced defenses with better overall prospects from top to bottom.
Wait, I understand what you're trying to bring. I understand what you're trying to bring up here, but are we not forgetting how close that Texas A&M game was and how Texas A&M blew it because of Jimbo's poor decision-making at the end of that game? That had nothing to do with the defense.
They also had a block kick that got called back. They also had 2 touchdowns that got called back.
If I remember correctly, Texas A&M did a pretty good job of stepping up against Alabama.
It was like within a 1-score game. Alabama got the block kick that got returned.
I'm trying to pull it. Okay, Texas A&M held them to 26 points in that game.
26-20, was it not?
Jalen Milroe threw 1 interception, and he
how many passing yards he have?
He had 321, but he ran for negative 30. He ran for negative 31 yards. And I'd love to just quickly pull up how many sacks there were. Edgerrin Cooper had 3 sacks in that game. Walter Nolen had 1.
Inflated. His rushing stats are inflated. And
my point, wait. My point is I actually think that you're bringing it. I love how we managed to turn a segment that was supposed to be how can one team win, and now we're just sitting here yelling at each other about it. Look, final thought on this before we get to Michigan, because I would like to talk about Michigan and kind of pivot this so it makes a little bit more sense for the continuity of the show. My point is that a poor coaching job by Texas A&M offensively kept them from winning that football game, but that's the script to beating Jalen Milroe. Let's roll right into Michigan.
So you mean to tell me that J.J. McCarthy can't go into a playoff game and throw pick sixes and underperform? Oh, wait, you mean like he did last year against TCU?
That's not what I'm talking about here. For Michigan to win, this football game, Blake, and I think that there are multiple games this year.
We're on Michigan now?
Yeah, we're on Michigan. I'm sorry to throw us in there. I feel like we're already talking about it.
Okay.
We have a couple of games this year where opposing defenses with athletic linebackers have drawn up Jalen Milroe. Beat us as a quarterback. We're not letting you run for shit. We're going to get after you. We're going to play really good contain. We're going to spy you with really fast linebackers.
I agree.
And we have seen him throw for a lot of yards, but take 4+ sacks and throw interceptions and turn the ball over. They've won those games because their defense has bailed them out. But those were against teams that did not have the same level of offensive prowess and capability that Michigan has if they are hot and they are cooking. So for Michigan to win this game, they have to play the best contain that they can possibly play. And you need to take these athletic linebackers like Junior Colson, spy him, and do not let him pick up any yards as a runner. That has to be the main goal. And I feel like Georgia got away from that, and that's part of what hurt them when they played them in the SEC championship game.
If I'm Michigan and it's my key to win, I look, I know I said the same about Alabama and just play your game. Joe, I do think that there are some things that Michigan's going to have to do a little bit differently to win this game. I don't think that they can just play bully ball and it be a massive success. Look, one thing that they are pretty good in and are really well coached in is third down offense and third down defense. You're going to have to get J.J. McCarthy, in these third and short situations, because I promise you, if you're 3rd and 5+, Alabama is going to eat you alive because, Joe, we saw against Penn State and we saw against Ohio State at times that the right side of their offensive line was not good enough. And Alabama is just not a team that you can allow for him to get 5, even 7 step drops and get the ball out. He cannot be in these 3rd and 5+ situations for any of this to work. I will use another explosive offense that Alabama played this year in a team that I cover in LSU. Joe, what happened in the second half? Okay. They played bump and run, man-to-man coverage, and they said, you know what? Look, we are just going to allow you to get 3 and 4 yards on first down, and we're going to clamp down on third down, right? Like all we're going to do is just play man up across the board. And Jaden, we know you're going to beat us anyway, but you know what? We're going to play a little bit of keep away, and we're going to just play bump and run man-to-man. And it burned them sometimes, and it helped them sometimes. But the reason LSU was tied going into half, and why they even took the lead into the third quarter, mainly was because Jaden Daniels had 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4s to deal with. If you are not getting in those manageable situations for J.J. McCarthy, this is not the team with Dallas Turner and these boys that you can just – Joe, what's the word I'm looking for here? That you can just think that you're going to convert every one of those downs. You're not going to be able to do that. So I think managing, running the ball early in the game, getting 2, 3, 4 yards, playing your game, and then, Joe, when those safeties creep up, hit somebody down deep, try to open things up. Basically, Joe, you got to do what you did at Ohio State a year ago, right? That's the game plan that you have to have is what you did at Ohio State. The only fear that I have here, Joe, is one massive thing. If this game does get high scoring for whatever reason, even though I don't believe that it will be, okay, but if it is, Michigan has not been in a shootout all year long. Right. And if their defense is leaky and they can't stop Jalen Milroe in this offense to save their lives, Joe, they're 72nd in passing offense. And I know it's not their game, but if you get into a shootout and this game if I'm Alabama, I'm even running a little bit of tempo. You got to play a little keep away, manageable third downs, march the ball down the field, but you're going to have to hit big plays too. I'm not telling you just, run it, and then you're going to have to hit big plays. But if J.J. McCarthy does not have manageable downs, they're not going to win this football game.
One thing I want to add here offensively, I don't love pulling from rivalry weekend for examples of how to attack a team because, like we've talked about this.
I'll give one Maryland. They got to do what they did against Maryland in that 3rd and 4th quarter when Maryland started to score. They got to be able to answer punch for punch.
That wasn't I wasn't trying to discredit anything you said.
Okay.
I was trying to set up a point here with the Iron Bowl is hard to really pull takeaways and weaknesses from because it's such a crazy game. It was at Auburn. Any bad team on either side has gotten up for the opponent in that game and kept it close. But I also think it's tangible to notice how Auburn kept that game close was through running Peyton Thorne and adding him as a layer to the running game and running the ball as effectively as they did. I think their argument for how they win this game and why they could win this game is that if J.J. McCarthy is cleared of this unknown injury that has not been disclosed and he's able to be a better impactful runner, ask him to do that. Force him to do that. Incorporate him as much as possible because for whatever reason, Alabama has had this deficiency at handling these guys. It even happened with Joe Milton in the first half. And because of some strange circumstances and Tennessee went down by too much in the beginning of the second half. They were trying to play catch up. And because Alabama was so good defensively, they weren't getting any openings, and he was taking a ton of hits and a ton of sacks. So that game was donezo because Alabama's defense was so good. But in this circumstance, man, we've got a lot of examples that aren't talked about enough where running quarterbacks have taken advantage of Alabama's defense. Peyton Thorne's not as good of an athlete as J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy's a much better runner. So if he's healthy,
what you're saying is,
run him.
What you're trying to say is, in which I fully agree with you, and we talked about this during the LSU game, LSU and Alabama. Jane Daniels, what he does with his arm, it's going to be impressive. Like, he's got 2 first-round wide receivers. It's going to be impressive. It's what he was going to be able to do with his legs that would separate, and that's what separated. Joe, I agree with you. That's a great point. He's going to have to take off. And, look, they like to run these bootlegs, these little waggles and stuff like that. If I tell Jay, if I'm Harbaugh, I tell JJ, look, I don't want you to get hurt. Get the first down and get down. But, Joe, if he picks up 8, 9, 10 yards plus, how do I care how he's getting yards and marching the ball down the field? I don't give 2 shits if he throws for 1 yard. Now, you do bring up something here. And I have been told by Michigan fans for a month now, okay, when we talk about them, Joe, he has not had a good month. He has underperformed. And the truth is, since the cheating Connor Stallion scandal has picked up, he has not looked the same. Now, I do think it's going to be different with Harbaugh on the sidelines. But, Joe, look at the struggles he had against Iowa. How long is he going to be hurt? How long are you going to use that argument about ankle or whatever it was that you're claiming that it was? Iowa is a bunch of farm boy white dudes.
But it's still one of the best defenses.
I don't give a shit because it's not the green grass athletes that you're going to play against.
I understand it, but you can tangibly see that the guy is having trouble planting and cutting, and he's not the same. They're not running him at all. They hadn't run him at all.
That makes my point, right? Like, you could say, "Oh, he's hurt. He's nursing an injury." Thank you for confirming a point here.
He's had a month to recover. So I'm not disagreeing with you. It's a coin flip.
That he didn't re-aggravate? What if he re-aggravates it? You never know. And Joe,
right? That's why I'm saying it's a coin flip here. Of like, does he actually end up being fully recovered? Is this a severe injury? Is he playing with a broken foot? And have they been, juicing him up with painkillers? Is it just an ankle sprain? Right. Like, is it something stupid that he's just, lingering and it's being used as an excuse? So you're right. It's a coin flip. They don't disclose the information, so we have no idea.
Alabama is one of the better teams in the secondary. They've been all year. They're one of the better scoring defenses. You're going to have to play a little keep away, but you've got to hit these. You got to be manageable, and you got to hit explosive plays. If you don't, Saban's going to eat you alive. All right. Want to move to Texas and Washington. That'd be the next game, but I'll kick it off to you first. Texas. What are your keys to victory for Texas?
We're back.
I think the biggest part here is getting home on Michael Penix. Michael Penix is one of the least sacked quarterbacks in college football.
Right.
He has a really good offensive line that is under talked about. They just won the Joe Moore Award for top offensive line in the country. And Michael Penix also has a really good pocket awareness, strong athlete, but has just a really good understanding of how to evade pressure and get the ball off. If you want to win this game, you have to force him to handle and face that pressure and to try to deliver perfect balls through that pressure. He is a guy who was in the Heisman conversation for a reason, but he at times is a bit of a gambler. He does force footballs in areas where they probably don't belong, and that has led to some of his bad turnovers.
He's putting balls where he doesn't belong.
Shut up. I knew that as soon as I said it, I knew you were going to say that. But getting after Michael Penix is going to be paramount. I would, if you try too damn hard to play elite coverage against these receivers, you're just going to find yourself on your heels and, you're going to be playing on skates the whole game. It's not going to work. Use your strongest unit to get after Michael Penix. That is going to be the biggest key here. And then offensively, I don't even think they need to do anything that differently. They just play your game, run the football, keep taking shots. Hopefully Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell are fully healthy and ready to go for this one.
Man, Washington had no business winning that award. The Joe Moore Award. None. I'm telling you.
That's just wrong. Their offensive line was fantastic this year. Maybe somebody else could have been given that award, but they still were they were still top three.
I'm not saying they weren't a good offensive line. They have no business winning that award. You can't get pushed around from Arizona State and Stanford and win that award. I'm sorry. You just can't. You just can't. All right. I know. But am I again? Never mind. I'm going to let that one go. Okay. I just, they had no business winning that award. All right. Joe, look, this game to me for Texas has so much pressure on it. Like one thing that we have not talked about is, hey, man, if you win this, you're back in the national title. After all the stuff that you've taken, a decade plus of having losing season, firing this coach, firing that coach, not being able to get back, Steve Sarkisian has finally got you back in the playoff. We have talked about this ad nauseum. Texas is 95th in passing yards allowed. Okay? You hit the nail on the head. They're going to have to get home. They're going to have to send pressure to get after Penix because if they don't, he's going to eat them alive. I've seen lesser quarterbacks do much worse. What's the kid at Oklahoma State's name again? Did you say I hate all the time?
Bowman. Alan Bowman.
Bowman made throws against them that he had no business making. Michael Penix, if you give him the time, will eat you alive. Now, Washington has done better. Joe, I don't think Washington's going to have a lot of success running the football. Like, I don't. I know that this is a rematch of the Alamo Bowl, and Texas has gotten better along the front seven and in the trenches. I think you got to lean on that on both sides because I think you're better there. I know that Washington just won the Joe Moore Award. You're going to have to go out there and show that really didn't mean anything because I do think that they have the ability to do that. But there's one thing that I have not brought up that I'm really intrigued by. You need your signal caller. You need Quinn Ewers to take over this game because, Joe, I really do think that this game's going to be high scoring. I think it could get up into the 40s. I think that's where I'm sitting. I feel like it's a 45-41 type of game either way here because I don't think either secondary is going to be able to stop anybody. With that being said, if they're going to score 41 or 45 points, that means Quinn Ewers went stupid. They have their running back that is out. You have some inexperienced backs. Hopefully they don't turn the ball over and they're not, they're just not, the moment's not too big for them. But Joe, I think it's a high scoring game. And if that's the case, then I think Quinn Ewers goes for about 350 and 4 tutties. And they're going to have to do that to win. I just don't see that secondary stopping them enough.
Yeah, I really believe that Quinn Ewers. I get it's very cliche to bring up the quarterback and say that he's important for the game, and it's very. You're
right.
I'm not giving you a hard time. I'm saying that's we have to. We have to talk about this.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
When have we seen Quinn Ewers in a game like this against a premier team?
Well, so that was what I was going to get to. Is that Quinn is so important for this game because he's really streaky, and he's even streaky inside games. So like the first half against Oklahoma, bad football. Second half, he was cooking, got him back in the game and put him in a position to win the game. They ended up losing because Dylan Gabriel played, really good down that stretch. But I feel like since that Alabama game, he's played good football. His Alabama game was his best game ever. That is his ceiling. That is
no doubt. No doubt.
We need that version of Quinn for this game. We do, because the reality of it, and we're going to talk about Washington in a quick second here, you throw one pick, you take one bad sack, and you punt the football
to Penix,
you're playing catch up.
Yeah,
you can't do that in this game.
And look, Joe, I don't. And I have been labeled on this show as we've had over 500,000 views in the month of December. So don't act like you're not seeing our content, okay? Joel, how many times have we talked about on this one? Every Texas fan is telling me, okay, listen, our secondary is, we're third in pass efficiency. And I've been labeled the Washington hater. Like, people think I hate Washington. I don't hate Washington. What I will tell you, no, I don't hate them. I think they're fraudulent, okay, in areas. I don't hate them.
I don't hate them, but here's why they're bad.
No. I don't think Texas could stop the three-headed monster at the wide receiver room. I don't think they can stop Polk. I don't think they can stop McClellan. I don't think they can stop Ndunze. They're going to have to pick one to stop. And the likelihood is they're probably going to do that with Ndunze. Well, good luck, because McClellan's back, or McMillan, or whatever. McMillan's back. So the bottom line, I keep calling him McClellan for whatever stupid reason. It's a running back for Bama. But McMillan is back. Did you see what McMillan did to Oregon? Did you see what happened when the three-headed monster went off? And then, Joe, you know what happened? Well, you know what? Why am I talking about Washington as much? I damn near should do it. All I'm trying to say is Texas, if you think that you have the horses in the secondary to stop this wide receiver core, you're crazy. You're crazy.
I don't mean to jump the gun, but do you want to roll into Washington here? Because we're already kind of talking about it.
We can. We got a super chat. Okay, that's all right.
We'll get a super chat after. Washington, for me, and I've said this, it kind of goes in line with who we just talked about there with Quinn Ewers. We have said this all year, or I have said this all year. What has made Washington unique and what has helped them get this far is that they're so different than any of the other teams that are in the final playoff. They force teams to play to their level. They force them to play the same style of fast break, quick, move the ball down the field offense. You need to come out aggressive out of the gate the same way that you did against Oregon. You need to find a way to have the same success running the football that you did against Oregon. If you play a similar game that you did in the Pac-12 championship game, you can position yourself to comfortably win this one. I really do believe that Quinn Ewers is a quarterback, and Texas fans aren't going to like this. He is a quarterback who is capable and has the tools to play catch up and to get back into the game. But he's also one of the few quarterbacks in the playoff that I know that when he presses and he tries to do too much, he messes up bad. He makes some really tough decisions. Haven't seen him do it a lot this year because he's played a lot better and they've been so dominant and they've played a pretty shit schedule. But the times where he has looked rough, beginning against Oklahoma, and he's forced things, it has put them in really bad positions. So they need to force him to press and they need to go after him. They need to send a ton of pressure. They need to get in his face. They need to, their defensive line and their defense has been really shoddy. They need to just be so full pedal to the metal when going after Quinn Ewers that it forces him to just continually make mistakes. You're going to give up a couple shots early, but I think eventually it's going to get to him.
I don't disagree with your premise, but I'm gonna counter you. I don't know, Joe, if on early downs, I don't know if I'm dropping dudes. Like, I might come out and drop 8 and make Quinn Ewers make the right decision in the passing game. Because
I just worry that they run the ball so well, though. That's my only problem.
That's true. And you're not wrong there. But let me explain. They do run the ball. They do run the ball very well. But, Joe, Quinn Ewers threw for 369 yards last year, and they were dropping dudes. Now, they would come after him at times. I'm not saying just always drop 8. I'm saying mix it up. Joe, he had 16 throws that he missed, 9 of them in the red zone. And why they lost the Alamo Bowl last year. Like, the reason they lost is because in between the 20s, Quinn Ewers was Brett Favre. Okay, dude was lightening up, hanging and banging, pause, but hanging and banging. He got inside the red zone, and the man looked like he was eating crayons at a junior high Oktoberfest, okay? Kid could not throw to save his life. I don't know if I'm not dropping back sometimes, dropping 8, showing him blitz and dropping out, and making him make the right decisions. Show me that Quinn Ewers can make the right decisions, right? Like we saw literally a year, Joe, literally this time a year ago that I went and watched that game again today. There were times that they would play what I used to call the amoeba coverage. Have a lot of guys on the line of scrimmage. You have no idea where the pressure is coming from. A lot of dudes would back out in the secondary. He didn't make any right decisions. So with that being said, I think that is a key for Washington. You're going to have to really scheme up things on defense to win this football game. And you're not going to – do not play bully ball with them. Do not get yourself in a situation where you're just trying to line up and go right at them. Because if you do, I promise you this Texas offensive line, who I'm going to throw this out there, I do believe had a better case of winning the Joe Moore Award than Washington did. Joe, they're going to bully you. You can't just line up and say we're better than you are. You're going to have to scheme shit up. You're going to have to send different packages that they have not seen all year long. And if you can do that and be successful, I think you're clearly going to win. Joe, I don't like this game for Texas. I've said it from the beginning when it came out.
Texas, which it's crazy because when you listen to your words, but separate from your conclusion of why you picked Texas to win by 3 points, all of your points and words have made so much sense for an argument for why Washington wins. And
what have I told you though? I flip a coin. Like Washington fans hate me, and I literally said the whole month said flip a coin. The only difference, Joe, the only goddamn difference, I think they're better on the line of scrimmages. I think if the game came down to a fourth quarter and Texas had a lead, their offensive line will push you around and get a first down and you lose. That's it. That's it. All right,
let's get these super chats.
All right.
And then we'll
Wicked Bronco Production says Moss is not the future. I guess talking about Miller Moss. He played at Louisville. He played a Louisville team that had no starters on defense and didn't have any more but Plummer. Notre Dame is going to drag both of those teams in 2024. Also, Notre Dame is better than LSU, more draft picks. They actually do not. Since the year 2020 or 2003, LSU has more draft picks than Notre Dame. Thank you for the super chat. Wicked Bronco says, Blake will disagree with me, but Freeman and Notre Dame's future is way brighter than LSU's. We are recruiting better. Actually, that's not true.
I don't
we have an easier path to the college football playoff. That is true.
Yeah.
And LSU's future could be cloudy if BK goes to scum with his UM.
Okay, but I'm not going to let you get dragged down the rabbit hole. Brian Kelly's not going to Michigan. Brian Kelly coached at Central Michigan. That's the only tie that he has to the state of the Michigan. He is 60 years old, 62 years old. He is not going to start over again. And on top of that, they're going to hire and promote Sharon Moore. Plain and simple.
Or Elston, who Notre Dame fans know because he's from there. He's a Michigan guy.
There is no shot that Brian Kelly ends up there. I appreciate the super chat. Here's where one thing, and we haven't actually even really talked about this, is me being a Notre Dame guy, you being an LSU guy, because we debate about this. I think that Notre Dame, and as after Notre Dame got Dan Brock, Notre Dame and LSU's futures are pretty parallel. They don't cross paths at all. They're two completely different regions. They play completely different schedules. They play completely different teams. They're both capable of being consistent college football playoff teams.
You never get over that hump. Well, LSU can because LSU's second in national title since 2003. So what do I know?
Well, but Brian Kelly has never gotten over that hump. So
LSU we had a coach that ate grass and a coach that you couldn't understand.
I think that the coach who you couldn't understand was a great coach. So
no, he was not.
I don't think my point is I don't think one team's future is like vastly brighter than the other.
LSU's ninth in recruiting, and I think Notre Dame's 10th. LSU had a top 5 class. Technically the first 2 years that Brian Kelly had recruiting classes, because when Brian Kelly got hired in December, he literally brought in a top 5 recruiting class. He also CJ Carr and Deuce Knight is better than LSU's QB room. Okay, buddy.
He also said this, that he's not a Midwest guy. He's from Boston. He's from Massachusetts.
Yeah, he's from Boston. All right. We got 2 things we need to touch on. Do you want to get to Miller Moss and Walter Nolen really quickly?
Yeah, let's do it.
And thank you, Wicked, for the super chats.
Yeah,
Which one do you want to attack first? You want Walter Nolen or Miller Moss?
Let's do Miller Moss because the Walter Nolen thing is kind of
Okay.
It's a little aged.
Miller Moss last night for USC proved to me that Caleb Williams is I can't say it.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Blake. Okay.
Quarterback. Caleb Williams is assistant quarterback.
He's not a system quarterback. He is extremely physically gifted, and he can do some unbelievable things.
He's a system QB, man.
Here's what I will say, though. It was noticeable that I felt like when they had a quarterback who wasn't trying to improvise too much and wasn't trying to do too much, the offense moved a lot more efficiently. I'm not knocking Caleb Williams. It's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm going to say this. The brightest decision, the best decision that Lincoln Riley could make, and we have shit on him to no end on this show.
Not me.
You have to. Would be to commit to Miller Moss. Give him a legitimate shot. Will Howard is not better than what I saw Miller Moss do. I have never seen Will Howard play a game that good. I have never seen him do anything like that. Miller Moss should be the guy.
I don't disagree with that. I liked a lot, Joe, what I saw from Miller Moss last night. I thought that you hit the nail on the head. Dude, he ran the system, and the system paid off for him. He made the right reads. I mean, he made the right checkdowns. He got out of the blitzes, okay? And even there were times that you could tell that they had a pure passing on. Offensive line's chattering along the offensive line, and he's checking into a run. I thought that it was really, really well-run efficiency, okay? And I got to be honest. Now I know why Nelson transferred. I think this kid could really play. Like, I really do. Now, does that mean that they're going to win? Does that mean that they fixed everything defensively and offense? No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I know Caleb Williams was really good this year, but this kid played one hell of a game. And one thing that people forget about with Lincoln started off as a air raid principled guy. That is his nature. That is what he likes to run. He is from the Mike Leach tree. If this kid can have a great summer, Joe, they have a lot of momentum. They got weapons. They got to get better along the offensive line, but I like what I saw from Miller Moss. I told you earlier, the throw that he had down the field to number 19, I forget the young man's name, and him taking the hit inside the pocket was beautiful. There was a throw I tweeted at you during the game where it was a drag route across the field, and he's got to step up into the pocket. He's got to sidearm deliver it, and the dude's going to hit him right in the chest. He makes a perfect throw, hits the guy right in the numbers. Oh, by the way, in between two defenders, and they get a first down on 3rd and 9, Joe. The kid looked so polished that I got to be real with you. I honestly, I thought it was one of the best. Tell Miller Moss that bowl games don't matter, because that was one of the more polished games of a quarterback coming off the bench that I think I've arguably ever seen. Ever. Joe, he came off the bench and threw for 6 tutties. You know, like, we're just going to sit here.
Yes.
Like, that's difficult to do in 7-on-7 and even on air. He's doing that against a team that played for the ACC championship.
I don't want to have Matt Flynn syndrome. Just to be clear here,
Matt Flynn did that, and this is completely different.
Right? I don't think it's completely different. I think it's.
I'm not disagreeing with him. He's an LSU quarterback, and I will punch you.
Forgot about that.
Matt Flynn is a great fan of the show.
No, he's not. Matt Flynn.
Yes, he is.
Maybe of your show, Matt. Okay, but seriously, Matt Flynn. I'm not knocking him. Matt Flynn. I don't want to fall for he had a really good game. In garbage time, it was kind of what the game. Wait. The game is not garbage time. I'm saying that the game itself was an exhibition. He played out of his mind. A lot of what he did in that game was fantastic, which is why I'm in on him. All I'm saying, I'm just putting out this qualifier. There's a possibility that this doesn't work out. But I think that if I'm Miller Moss, if they bring in Will Howard, and Will Howard commits, get in the portal. Get in the portal.
Joe, how much?
Don't let them screw you like that.
How much money can he make right now if he got in the portal?
Well, that's why I think this fits the Matt Flynn bit, because hop in the portal, go get your bag, go to UCLA. Who's UCLA's quarterback? Just go across it's not across the street, go across town. Shit.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but you could just, here's the problem with that. Matt Flynn had a really good system behind him with really good players, and that team wound up going and winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, like that team that he did that on won a Super Bowl, okay?
But he was given a starting job and then eventually lost it.
That team won a Super Bowl. He was a quarterback for a Super Bowl team. I also saw Chad Henne when Pat Mahomes went down, and he looked great. You're right. There are flashes, but you can tell that the kid's got something, right? Like you can tell the kid, like Joe,
which is why you should transfer.
Well, you just don't want to. You just want to transfer because he plays.
Because they're still pursuing.
He's better than Riley Leonard.
This kid's been sitting at that. Okay, you're just being a dumbass by saying that.
He's a better pure thrower. He sure as shit is a better pure thrower than Riley Leonard.
I don't really. His ceiling's not as high as Riley Leonard.
I didn't say anything about ceilings. This isn't Lil Wayne.
Look, I think if Will Howard commits, which he hasn't done yet, if I'm him, I'm hopping in the portal. Do not get dicked around. Don't get dicked around by Lincoln.
Yeah, don't get dicked. Last thing before we get Walter Nolen to Ole Miss, your thoughts before we get out of here.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by it. I think that we kind of knew and it was projected this whole time. It just rounds out our thoughts on how good of an offseason that Ole Miss has had. Right now, I can confidently say they're a top 3 team in the SEC. And I think that it's really lazy to do they're just going to only win 10 games. Well, 10 games gets you into the playoff. And when you have a defensive line that deep and that good, that's what you need to win football games. They're capable of reaching the national championship with that roster. Walter Nolen was that final missing piece.
10 new defensive pieces, man. I agree. I think they're the third best team in the SEC right now. Unless LSU, in my opinion, who does have the talent, can step up. Be the only team that could take it from them, in my opinion. From just a pure talent standpoint. Like now look, they're going to be a tough team to contend with, and they have tough games against Oklahoma, a tough game against Oklahoma. They don't have Alabama. They have Georgia at home. They got LSU on the road. Joe, that's it. Now, I do think that they face a really good Kentucky team early, but I think they can beat Kentucky. I mean, it'd be Brock Vandagriff's like 4th or 5th start. They don't have an easy schedule, but they don't have a tough one either. Like they don't have Georgia's schedule this year. Like Georgia's got a really tough one. And Joe, there could be a scenario where they're 10-2 again, and it doesn't matter because they're in the playoff. And I think Walter Nolen has not tapped into his potential yet. I think he had 4 sacks on the year. He was double teamed a lot. Their teams are not going to be able to just double team him the whole time because they have other issues along that defensive line. I think it's a great landing spot for Walter Nolen, and Portal Pete, man, just continues.
Portal Pete.
Curly head kid from Hammond, Louisiana. You know that, Joe, that's where I do my show from every single night. Portal Pete.
They're building something over there, man. People got to stop doubting them.
Well, you doubt him. And you got to stop downing Miller Moss, man. You're a hater.
You're just making that up. That was never said.
All right, we will see you again. Is our next show Monday. So we're live immediately following the second playoff game, Texas and Washington.
Yeah.
All right. Happy New Year. Great year 1 with you, my friend. It's been a good year. We've gone leaps and bounds. I appreciate you being along with me on this journey, bud.
You too. I've been an awesome year. Only place we can go is up.
No doubt. And you know what it makes me think about?
What?
It doesn't matter what you think.
Oh, we got to put that on your soundboard.
We do got to put that on my soundboard. We'll see you guys post game after the playoffs. Good. Another good one, Joe. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.